Hi everybody, back with a little bit more of our chapter book, Runaway Ralph. We're on chapter 3, and chapter 3 is called An Educational Toy. So you notice the word education is in educational. Well, if something's educational, that means that it has something to do with teaching you, like education. So Ralph is an educational toy. Let me remind you what was happening in the beginning of chapter 3. He was in the gopher's tunnel. But the gopher said he had to leave. So he left the gopher's tunnel and he found a place to rest by some bamboo. And then all of a sudden there was a cat's paw on him. And let me show you the illustration of the cat. It's more than one. So it seemed like there was one cat teaching the other cats about how to play with mice or catch mice. And Ralph, of course, is really, really scared. And one of the phrases that Beverly Cleary, the author, uses is frozen with terror. He landed on his feet and stood frozen with terror facing the cat. Here's the phrase frozen with terror. And last time we talked about how frozen is when you're ice cold, right? Like an ice cube is frozen. But sometimes frozen can mean something else. When I looked up the word frozen, the definition wasn't the first definition or even the second. I had to go to the third definition, and I'll read it to you. The third definition of frozen is become suddenly motionless or paralyzed with fear or shock. So Ralph was frozen with terror. He was so scared he couldn't move. Well, let's keep going with chapter 3. He's trying to play dead, explained the tomcat, but I can feel his heart beating beneath my paw. Unfortunately, there was nothing Ralph could do about his heartbeat. If he ever got away from this cat, he would be a better mouse. He would listen when his mother warned him about cats, owls, people, traps, poisoned grain, and vacuum cleaners. He would set a good example for his little brothers and sisters and cousins. Children, forget that butterfly and watch closely, instructed the mother cat. "This is the scoop and toss play," explained the tomcat, and the next thing Ralph knew he had been scooped up by the cat's paw and tossed into the air. He managed to land on all fours in the bamboo leaves, but he was too terrified of that clawed paw to move. The attention of the kittens, the attention of the kittens, he was pleased to see, had wandered. One rolled over and tried to catch his tail. Another scampered off after a leaf. A third trotted after a girl who picked him up and carried him away. The tomcat appeared to lose interest in Ralph and sat calmly, his tail curved around his feet, looking up at the leaves fluttering on the bamboo stalks. "He thinks he's got me fooled," thought Ralph. If he moved, the cat was sure to pounce. If he did not move, the cat would pounce anyway. There was no way Ralph could win. He was doomed, doomed to be a mid-morning snack for a cat. Luckily, Ralph did not have to make a decision. There was a sudden whacking noise on the fallen leaves, and a cloud of something light and soft settled over him. Then he found himself being tumbled about as he was lifted from the ground. "Good for you, Garf," said a woman's voice. "What kind of butterfly did you catch?" "It isn't a butterfly," answered the boy. "It's a mouse. I rescued him from Catso." By now Ralph had managed to get his feet down and his head up and could see that he was suspended in the air in some sort of net. Through the mesh he could see a plump, cheerful woman who was wearing slacks and a blouse. He also could see the boy, the same boy who had clumped through the Mountain View Inn in new cowboy boots, who was now holding him so ignominiously in the butterfly net. Better a net than a paw, thought Ralph philosophically, because he felt that where there was a boy, there was hope. Boys liked mice. "A mouse!" exclaimed the woman. "You caught a mouse in a butterfly net?" "Yes," answered the boy, "and I'm going to keep him." Where? wondered Ralph. In his pocket? He hoped so. A boy's pocket was apt to be warm and dark and full of crumbs. The cat, cheated of his prey, stalked off with his tail in the air, trying to pretend in a most dignified manner that he did not want a mouse anyway. "Good," said the woman enthusiastically, surprising Ralph. All of the women he had known, the housekeeper, maids, and guests of the hotel, referred to mice as nasty creatures or pesky rodents, and from Ralph's point of view, spent their time trying to outwit perfectly harmless little animals. "We can find a place for him in our nature corner," suggested the woman, who Ralph decided must be the Aunt Jill Sam had mentioned. "Come on into the craft shop. I'm sure we have an old cage somewhere." Ralph was disappointed. He had looked forward to a dark and crummy pocket. At the same time, he was anxious. If he was to be trapped in a cage, how would he get back to his motorcycle? The screen door creaked as it opened, and Ralph found himself looking through the net at a room with long work tables and walls lined with shelves full of boxes, jars, and odds and ends. Seated on a bench were three girls who were busy braiding with long strips of colored plastic. They appeared to ignore the boy until the woman rummaged around on the shelves and produced a small wire cage with an exercise wheel inside and a bottle for water fastened at one end. Suddenly the girls were interested. "What's the cage for, Aunt Jill?" asked one of them, as all three jumped up from the bench. "Garth caught a mouse in his butterfly net," explained Aunt Jill. "He wants to keep it." "In a butterfly net?" The girls found this feat funny. Let me see," they begged. Ralph found himself being poked out of the net and into the cage. The door was closed behind him and fastened. He scurried behind the exercise wheel, where he sat trembling, partly from fright and partly from relief at being safe from the cat. "Isn't he darling?" cried the girls, their faces large and close to the cage bars. "Isn't he sweet? Those teeny tiny ears! Look at those itsy bitsy paws!" Ralph looked for help toward the boy, who had stepped aside and now stood scowling beside the screen door. "Aunt Jill, can we feed the mouse?" begged the girls. "Please let us feed him." Ralph turned his back and curled up into the smallest possible ball. "The mouse belongs to Garfield," said Aunt Jill. "He gets to feed his own mouse." "Skip it." Ralph thought Garf sounded angry. He heard the boy's footsteps leave the craft shop and the screen door screech and slam as it opened and closed. Here's an illustration of Garf. You could see Ralph in the butterfly net, and they're getting ready to put Ralph in the cage, and you can see the three girls as well. "What's the matter with him?" asked one of the girls, who sounded as if she did not really care. "Girls, do you know what I think we should do?" asked Aunt Jill. "I think we should all help Garfield enjoy camp. This is his first time away from home, and he doesn't know anyone here. I think he's lonely." "But he's mean," protested the girl with the sunburned nose. "He just stays off by himself." "There's nothing mean about that," Aunt Jill pointed out. "I know," admitted the girl, "but I don't know. Anyway, Garf is a funny name." "Maybe he doesn't think so," said Aunt Jill. Ralph could feel one of the girls trying to poke her finger through the bars of his cage. "At meals he won't talk or sing," she said, jabbing Ralph with a stick. "He just eats, and then he gets up and walks out." Ralph tried to draw himself into a tighter ball. "See, he's outside just standing there," said another girl. "He practically never talks to anyone." Aunt Jill lifted Ralph's cage up onto a shelf in the corner near a window. "Catching a mouse in a butterfly net is certainly doing something," she remarked. "I think Garf should take care of the mouse." Ralph made up his mind not to budge. If he stayed perfectly still, sooner or later they would all go away and let him enjoy peace and quiet in his nice, safe cage. Then maybe Garth would come back. He might even think of bringing a corner of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Then Ralph would simply explain to Garth that he needed to get out of the cage because he had to take care of his motorcycle. He was quite sure that Garth would understand, for he looked like the kind of boy who was interested in speed and motorcycles and who would know how to make a miniature motorcycle go. All right, everybody, that's the end of chapter 3. Chapter 4 is called Chum. I wonder what that means. We'll see next time.